Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Ladies and gentlemen, the motion picture you're about to see contains scenes so terrifying, the public must be given grave warning.
Hello and good evening. Welcome, everybody, to the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. I am your host, Sewer Dweller, and joining me, as always, Friday.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
I think it's going to be a great weekend this week, actually. We got Transworld going on in St. Louis for all you haunted house and Halloween fans and Christmas fans, because actually it has a Halloween and a Christmas show this year. It's
and
Mardi
we
Gras.
will have that, a show about that not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, and Pyle will tell us all about the Transworld.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of pictures. I'm not seeing much news come out of it, but I'm seeing a lot of pictures come out, and I'm jealous. We had talked about, me and the wife had talked about going down tomorrow, because St. Louis ain't but like a 5-hour drive from us. We're talking about going down tomorrow and checking it out, but you cannot buy weekly or daily tickets. You can only buy 4-day tickets right now. So unfortunately, we won't be going tomorrow, but we're planning on it next year, because Transworld is definitely a bucket listing for me. But not only is it Transworld weekend, it is Mardi Gras.
Me too.
This Tuesday, of course, is Fat Tuesday. Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, for all you Catholics out there. So why not watch this weekend, go through and watch 1978 Video Nasty list member Mardi Gras Massacre. We will definitely be talking about that in the second part. We'll talk about what the Video Nasty list is, for those who don't know what the Video Nasty list is. But this is a movie that was actually banned in America. It was filmed and made in 1978, but did not see the light of day until 1983. We'll talk about that here in the next segment, of course. But as always, you know what time it is. It is time for haunted industry news and horror movie news. So needless to say, most of our haunt industry news there's a couple of other stories, but a lot of it, there's a lot of, basically everybody is in St. Louis. Most haunt owners, yard haunters, everybody, St. Louis is the place to be this weekend. And there's just so much going on. All kind of parties. They have like big parties, everybody has parties in their hotel room. There's tomorrow night is the zombie prom. I think they had like a vampire masquerade ball tonight. there's every night there's a party every night somewhere down there. But it's definitely. Sorry, I'm trying to find my article. There it is. Let's see. So basically, you're talking 500 exhibitors this year, 90 new exhibitors for 2025. There's the floor plan. There's the zombie prom is tomorrow night. That's the horror themed throwback featuring live DJs, spooky cocktails, and pro makeup stations to help transform you into a zombie. Last night they had the City Museum party where they take over the St. Louis's famous City Museum. Last night and tonight you had the Darkness and Lemp Brewery behind the scenes tours of two of the nation's top haunted attractions. The Darkness I have heard of before, and it's supposed to be really good. Tonight is the Vampire Circus. I'm sorry, I thought it was a masquerade, but it is a circus actually. You can experience a gothic acrobatic stage performance blending circus theatrics and high energy horror flair. And of course, every single night they have industry mixers. So there is no lack of things to do down there. There's plenty of course, that the trade room floor is where everybody wants to be. There's plenty of seminars going on, safety seminars, how to get started in the industry, how to, how to hire your actors, how to train your actors, how makeup tutorials. Like there's just all kinds of stuff going on down there. But one of the big things I've been seeing, and I'm going to have to share my screen for this. Let me get this. We'll share the screen real quick so you guys can see. You get the behind the scenes look at my Facebook page. But this animatronic has been appearing everywhere. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah. I love this. Like they've done a pumpkin conveyor belt before, but never with like the guts and the carving and that, and then everything going almost like all the power is going into that big jack-o'-lantern on top. Like that
is so cool.
From what I'm seeing is that's the first big thing you get to see when you walk into Transworld. I've seen a bunch of other stuff. There's like I said, just pictures everywhere. And just so much cool stuff going on. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the YouTube videos. I'll probably be tuning in next Wednesday, or I might join you guys next week for the Transworld show because, like I said, that's a bucket list thing for me.
Oh yeah, I don't think he's ever going to complain about that. You're always welcome.
I appreciate that. But here is a couple of things too that debuted. Let me share my screen again because these are some costumes that Halloween costumes. Is it Halloween costumes? I believe HalloweenCostumes.com debuted 3 of their new animatronics that they've made. First, we have the Nun.
My mother-in-law wants that in her room.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. You can pre-order it, of course, for the very low price. Actually, that is pretty low price for an animatronic of $195.49.
Oh wow!
And it is expected to arrive mid-June. Then we have Annabelle from The Conjuring, of course. This is not the true Annabelle doll, but the Annabelle from the movies. $127.49 if you pre-order. And finally, Chucky, who comes in at a whopping $212.49. Gifts.
Oh, wow. That's nice. I was
Yes, a lot of
wondering
these.
if it was a full Conjuring universe thing.
Almost. It seemed it did. I didn't even put that together, honestly. I've seen the Conjurings. I haven't seen the Nun yet or the Annabelle movies. Just because I don't necessarily trust the Warrens. I know they're just very controversial.
I find it entertaining, and
Yeah.
I just thought it was hilarious. They have a well-known anime voice actor doing their books on Audible.
Oh, nice. That'd probably be that has. Have they already recorded them, or are they recording them now?
Oh, they're up.
Let's say
You can listen to them now.
Well, what I'm saying is because God, what is it? Elizabeth Warren? No. What is her name? I am drawing a blank. But Mrs. Warren passed away about 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yes.
I know Ed Warren, Lorraine.
Lorraine?
Ed Warren.
Yes.
Yeah, Ed Warren died, I want to say, in the 80s or 90s, and Lorraine passed away recently. And the son-in-law is the one who's in charge now of the ghost stuff, and he's kind of a giant douche. And has actually taken Annabelle out of her box and is traveling around the country with her.
Yes, he is. And he did the whole video thing of putting a blessing on the new container as they were transferring her, and made a whole production of it all.
Yeah, because he's a bigger scam artist than those two were, in all honesty. And I don't even know if I would include Lorraine as much as I would Ed. But I do think Ed was a con man. Lorraine, I can see her having some psychic abilities, but I don't. One of the things that gets me with the movies that kind of annoy me a little bit is part 2 where they're doing the Enfield poltergeist. In reality, Ed was kicked out. Like, they threw him out of the house and wouldn't let him come back in. Within an hour or so of him being there, because he started talking about going to the news and making money off of this. So it's just, there's certain things I just, and everybody has their own opinions, of course. I personally don't trust the Warrens.
I don't know what's real and what's not, but that I look at it like I see any book I write or any book I read or movie. It is for entertainment.
Yes.
And it is for writing fodder.
But yeah, I mean, I and that I agree with. They're some of their stuff. It just, but we're gonna go ahead and move on. Because the spooky swaps meet sets year 5 return. Tickets go on sale for Saturday. Spooky Swap Meet in Southern California. Southern California's largest halfway to Halloween celebration, which this returns to Heritage Square Museum, Los Angeles, this April for its 5th year. Tickets go on sale. Have already gone on sale back in February 8th. Spooky Swap Meet will be held April's 25th, 26th, and 27th. And this year they're offering more nighttime hours, featuring 60-plus vendors selling a mix of used Halloween decor, props, and new merchandise. Spooky Swap Meet has sold out each day of the event since its start in 2021. The evening hours were a hit last year with vendors and attendees alike, so we added more, states Claire Dunlap, producer and co-creator. On both Friday and Saturday, the event will run until 10 p.m. Spooky Swap Meet features leading Halloween brands Trick or Treat Studios and Strange Cult, as well as convention and online favorites Tino Evil, Backstitch Bruja, Spooksy Boo, and Creepsville 666. Selling selections of new and gently used items, including gothic furnishings, Halloween-inspired decor, baked goods, apparel, props, and more. Fortune-telling and food will also be available for purchase. Guests of all ages are also encouraged to trick-or-treat for real candy at Heritage Square's 7 Victorian-era manors, whose exteriors have all been decorated and spooked up for the weekend by a curated selection of professional and amateur haunted attraction designers, including the LA Haunted Hayride, a Mr. He Slasher, Sanatorium Emporium, Stage Fright Theater, Sal Wayne's Restless Farm, and more. Guests are also invited to see live performances by the Little Ghouls, Ethereal Duet, the Satin Puppets. Live shows and walk-through haunted experiences are also a part of the offerings for Spooky Swap Meet 2025. So, somebody in Dayton, Ohio want to do this? Want to put this on? Like, that just sounds fun.
Oh, yes.
I know we usually have Circleville where the big pumpkin, they have a big pumpkin festival in October and that. Like if you go online, they have like this big pumpkin throw. They have the giant, the largest pumpkin contests and things like that. Like they literally will take a pumpkin and put it in a catapult, like a literal catapult, and fucking fling them things like half a mile almost.
That is awesome. And I love the pumpkin chunkin games.
Yes. We used to do the hayride I worked at. We used to do when one of the radio stations would come out. I think it was FM 99. They would do this thing where you could smash a pumpkin and win a prize. Most prizes were tickets to the haunt that you're already paid to go through, which always made me laugh. But there were like concert tickets, movie tickets, and a bunch of stuff like that. And all you had to do was register, walk up, smash a pumpkin with a hammer, and inside were whatever prizes.
That is cool.
That it was. Sucked to clean up because I worked on the farm, so the next morning I'm out there with a rake. But but Circleville holds something in the middle of summer, like a Halloween show, and it's really just a bunch of Etsy people coming out with their Halloween style decor and things like that, figures and that. A lot of 3D people with 3D printers making Halloween styled stuff. It's almost like you're going to a convention but without because one of the reasons I go to the conventions is simply because I love getting the movies that you can't buy anywhere else.
Oh yeah, that is always the best.
Yes, that's the whole reason I go. Plus the new, they have a lot of authors are there, people are selling books and things like that. And like it's the Circleville, like I said, we didn't go last year, we went the year before, and it was I think they could do more. Maybe like decorate it up a little bit more Halloween-y or something. But
that would be fun.
This would be something great to do, though, especially here in Ohio, because we have the most, like per capita, we have the most haunted houses in our state, in the entire union, in the entire country. So
that's one of my favorite things about you guys.
Yeah, I think Texas is catching up, though. Either Texas or California is catching up, but we still hold the number one spot. And those are just the registered haunts. Those aren't even like the home haunts or anything like that. Like we have a whole city that makes a map of all of houses that decorated up for Halloween.
That I just wish all the haunts here weren't like hours away.
Yeah, but you live in Texas. Isn't everything hours away?
Yeah, everything decent is at least an hour away.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean it doesn't suck.
No, I know. I'm pretty sure it does because I'm the kind of guy. I'm the kind of person where if I'm comfortable or something like that, and you say, "Hey, we need to go here," man, that's like 3 cities away. We sure we got to go there? Because that's the thing about it. Go ahead.
That's why we plan ahead. It's like,
Yes.
okay, we have no choice. We have to go. Fine. Can we do it Saturday when I'm off? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, see, then that's the thing. Like here, like where we live now, where we lived before, they closed. Like a tornado took out our only grocery store that was right around the corner. Now it was one of those small mom and pop shops that overcharged for everything. So we had now it's like a 3 or 4 mile drive to go to the grocery store, and it was every day. Me and the wife looking at each other like, yeah, we're just gonna order pizza or something, aren't we? Because we don't want to drive that. We don't want to drive that far, to go to the grocery store, especially after we've both been working all day. Now, at the same time, I worked in a grocery store, so if we needed something, I should have been told. But we're going to save that argument for later.
Oh, yeah. That is why when we go, we buy bulk. We try to get as much as possible, and that way it'll spread.
Well, and that's the thing. The thing here is, you have Dayton, and then you have a bunch of offshoots that still call themselves Dayton, but they're all their own cities. Like I live in Riverside, which is right. I want to say we're north or west of Dayton. It's hard now. And it was so much easier living in Virginia Beach because wherever the beach was, you knew that was east. But in Ohio, it was like, oh God, I'm still not used to this. But I think we're like a little northwest or west of actual Dayton proper. Then you have like Huber Heights, you have Kettering, Oakwood, and all these like suburbs of Dayton around it, and you could go 1 mile and being another whole freaking city. Where I know with you guys, it's like you got half the time you got 30 miles between you and your next neighbor.
I'm lucky right now. I've got like 4 people around me, which is better than it used to be, where it's like the closest neighbor was a good mile walk.
Yeah. And that's what my my aunt and her family, my mom's older sister, before she passed away, lived out in Arkansas. And you're talking like Wichita County, way out in the country. And they had the same issue where they lived almost like on a plot of land where my aunt's trailer was here. Her oldest child was like almost to the kind of like to the east, and right, basically all on the same plot of land. You had my aunt's trailer, her daughter's trailer, and then her father and mother-in-law's trailer right there on the same plot of land. Outside of that, you had to go through deer country to get to the next person.
I go through deer country daily.
Oh yeah, no, I trust me. I hear the stories from because my brother-in-law and my sister live out in Washington, up in a mountain, and this is why I get to get deer jerky year round.
And that is awesome. And over here, if you got a truck, you got to make sure it's tough. Mm-hmm. Our last one, before it was killed by a tornado, it lived going through a deer and still made it back and forth to work, even through a move.
Yeah, we're lucky we don't have as many of those issues up here. Like, we have a big deer population up here, but it's usually the semis that take them out. But I digress. We have a couple more stories for Halloween or hunt industry news. That is for the horror movies. Do we? Yep, already talked about that. How about a list from iHorror.com, a list of the creepy places around the world you must visit?
Alrighty.
I do always like a list. These are not in any numerical order or anything like that. But the first one they list, the catacombs of Paris. I've seen the episode of Ghost Adventures where they went down in here, and was it Paris? No, that was Scotland. But basically, the walls are almost built out of human skulls and like human bones.
Ooh.
Over 6 million people reside beneath the streets of Paris, not in the flesh, but quite the opposite. A labyrinth of tunnels filled with their bones makes up the walls, and dim lighting casts eerie shadows over rows of eyeless skulls that watch over adventurers as they make their way through this chilling experience. And I've seen, like I said, I saw the one they did in Scotland, that the Ghost Adventures did, and that was actually pretty creepy. But I've seen pictures and things like that with the Paris catacombs, and yeah, it's kind of unsettling.
I love learning about the catacombs and what you can find or can't find, and what people see.
Yes. And that's the thing, is some of the dark stories you heard from the Edinburgh, Scotland, their catacombs was kind of creepy. But this comes from the article. This is a picture of part of the Paris catacombs. If it's anything like the Scottish ones, people basically in the Middle Ages and that they lived under here. And, you know, just trying to stay away from the elements and that. And this is where they took shelter. And I guess this is the 6 million people under here are people that died.
The church, the cemeteries were being overflowed.
Okay.
And the priests decided to just decorate the catacombs with the skeletons artistically. That way they'd have a place to put them. So they, because they didn't want them to like come back, and B, because they needed to do something with them.
Yeah. I can say, sorry, just banged my dislocated finger.
Ow.
Yeah, well, it's healing, but I just like stubbed. I just like jammed it. Ow.
That hurts.
Yeah. It's slowly but surely healing, though, so that's a positive. But second on this list is one of my favorite places to visit, the town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Ooh. We
have done an episode. It's actually our first episode of Shivers was done on the ghosts of Gettysburg. In 1863, the Battle of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania began and lasted for 3 days. In that time, 50,000 men lost their lives, many never receiving a proper burial. Now, they, like when they dug up, then they were building when I went there the first time, early 2010s, might have actually been 2010. The first time I went, they had just built a high school right in the center of town. And the guide that I was with told us, when they dug the hole in the ground to put in the foundation for the high school, they found like 150 bodies.
Uh-huh.
So they had just found yet another mass grave.
Yeah.
Which it happens all the time out there when you're going to dig. And there's a reason why you're not allowed on the battlefield. If you're caught on the battlefield after dusk, basically after sundown, if you're caught on the battlefield, they will arrest you. No questions asked. You don't get a second chance or a first chance. You immediately go in handcuffs. The Rangers will arrest you and they will take you to jail.
Okay, as a person from the Chattanooga area, I've never wanted to go on to the battlefield after dark. After seeing what I saw in the daylight, I don't want to do after dark. I'm fine.
Well, what it is they want, basically it's not regular people that do it. Unfortunately, they're treasure hunters trying to find like bullets or some sort of metal from back then, like, gold teeth or pins from jackets or whatever, because there is a really big market for Civil War memorabilia. So if they find like a musket ball or they find a cannonball or something like that, they take it, they can sell it online and make thousands of dollars. And basically the park, because it is a national park, they don't want them doing that. They don't want them digging up the fields and that. Because I remember when last time I gone there, that I'd stayed there for more than a night. They actually were talking about putting in a casino, and the residents there vehemently did not want that casino.
No.
Like they were not happy about it, even the thought of it. But the third location on our list, and this is a very popular one. This is another bucket list item for me, I believe. The Stanley Hotel.
Ooh.
Of course, Jen, what is the Stanley Hotel most famous for?
The Shining and the Dr. Sleep.
Yes. It is the basis of the story for The Shining is the hotel, the setting. That's what I'm thinking of. The setting for The Shining. I want to say the book and the movie.
Yes.
Because Stephen King was creeped out by this enormous hotel, and he was inspired to write The Shining based on his experiences at the Stanley, located in Estes Park, Colorado.
He got lost in the hotel, and that after being lost and wandering around because they were the last ones there, that's what started the idea for the story.
I can see that. I can definitely. I mean, it's a creative story. You know, I'll be the first to admit I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Stephen King, like his movies and that, but The Shining always got me good, and I always enjoyed watching it. And to me, one of the more creative stories.
Oh yeah.
Next on our list, The Island of Dolls in Xochimilco, Mexico. Basically, it's an island filled with thousands of deteriorating dolls hanging from a tree.
He had found the body of a girl who she had drowned, and he's able to bring her back for a couple minutes, and she was asking for her doll. And to appease her spirit, he put dolls everywhere.
Yes, I've seen pictures of this place too, and there's literally dolls. Like I would probably, if I didn't know better, I would probably turn my boat around immediately if I saw that. Moving on, we got our first prison, Eastern State Penitentiary. This again is a bucket list on me. It's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The backstory to this prison is very not evil, but you can see how people were tortured.
Yes.
The Quakers, I want to say it was the Quakers, are the ones that built this prison. And this was back, I want to say in the 1800s, they built it in the 1700s. This was back when, because you go today, prison really isn't about rehabilitating people. It's about keeping people out of society, which is not what prison was ever meant to do. It was meant to rehabilitate people, to put them back into society.
They all have tablets now.
Yes. I'm in a group on Facebook, and I get a good laugh out of this all the time. It's called Getting Out or something like that, where the inmates can post pictures and ask people to, it's almost like a dating site or a personal site. But every one of these people have men or women, have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner waiting for them when they get out. So what they're doing is they just want somebody to put money in their commissary.
Mm-hmm.
So you go on that, you'll start talking to them, and they're like, "Oh, honey, I really need $100."
Mm-hmm.
And of course, lonely people, okay, here's the money. Then when they get out, it's like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
But in this prison, each cell is supposed to have the only window it has. Like each cell is solitary. Like you weren't supposed to, you don't get you didn't have roommates or cellmates or anything like that. The only thing you had was a skylight so that the sun could shine down into the room or the moon could shine down into the room. And the only reason they did that was so you had a free pathway to talk to God and ask for forgiveness. So you would be locked up 20 hours a day, get to come out for a couple of hours to, exercise, eat, stuff like that. You ate in your room, basically. And then you're locked right back up.
Yeah.
Now, one of the most famous people that was locked up here would be Al Capone. And we all know Al Capone. He's one of the mobsters that makes me laugh because of all the evil, rotten, dirty things he did, like murder, racketeering, all that good stuff. He went to jail for tax evasion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can kill all the people you want. You can murder all the people, rape, do whatever you want to other people you want. But God damn it, if you don't pay your taxes, we're coming for you.
Yeah, that seems to be about all they cared about at that point with that.
Yes. But he has his cell is one of the famous stopping points in this prison because it is still, they gave him like top of the line, like they let him decorate his own cell. It's got carpets, got a nice bed in there, like a chair and a writing desk, all the nines. So moving on to Lithuania, the Hill of Crosses. I have never heard of this place. This is one of the places I've never heard of. But this centuries old landmark isn't as terrifying as it is eerie. Covered in thousands of crosses that dominate the landscape, it exudes an unsettling atmosphere. The origins of this graveyard of religious iconography aren't exactly clear, but it definitely has a creep factor. Give me 1 second. And there it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Some of those are very beautiful.
Yeah, I am not necessarily the most religious person, so I would definitely be turning around if this was me, but I can see where I can definitely see how people would find this, beautiful and it is intriguing,
Oh, yeah. It's the art they put into some of these crosses are beautiful.
Yes. That it is.
Yeah, that's not anything I'm going to ever ask you about. Do you want to join my religion? No.
And that's the thing, too, is even I don't consider myself atheist as much as I do consider myself anti-religion, like anti-organized religion. I don't go around telling people, oh, do you want to could you say a prayer for me? I'm not going to go. If somebody asks me to say a prayer, I'm not going to sit there and go, how dare you ask me? I'm atheist. I'm this or this. You can't ask me to do it. No, I can't pray for you. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit and give them a lecture on why prayer is bad or why believing God is bad. Because if that's what they want to do, that's on them. That's what they can do. I'm never going to be that kind of person. Next on the list, another bucket list location for me. I think we talked about this last week, actually, but the Villisca Axe Murder House.
That would be interesting.
Villisca, Iowa. There's just a creepiness to this house. I watched the Ghost Adventures episode when they went and visited it. I had already known about the Villisca Axe Murder House before they had. And there's just a creepiness that came through the television, of this house. Like, there's an evil there.
Oh, yeah.
For those who don't know, in June of 1912, on a pleasant summer night, 8 unsuspecting victims, 6 children and 2 parents, were bludgeoned to death as they slept over after a church service. Despite a nationwide manhunt, multiple suspects, and 2 trials, the murders remain unsolved. You can stay in the house, for a fee, of course, to see if you can capture your own evidence of lingering spirits. Like, if I remember, I think they had 4 children, and 2 of them were neighbors' children who were spending the night with them to basically play with the kids.
After
And
church, they
yeah,
had let their kids bring friends home, and somebody had come in the house and basically started killing everybody.
yeah, like they said, he hid in the closet most of the day, and then or basically the entire day, and then once everybody went to sleep, he came out and just started hacking. Like, it's just a creepy ass story.
It is.
And that is the last on that list. So those are definitely some stuff to look at. What are we going? 40 minutes. Let's go ahead. You know what we didn't do, Jen?
Yes, I do.
We didn't talk about what we watched last week.
I had watched The Haunting of Dice Road. It was basically they had made 2 documentaries of their investigation of the house at Dice Road and interviewed the people who lived in the house and friends of the people and the witch who had the person who knew the witch that had decided to she did stupid, and now they're having trouble getting it out of the house.
Almost like a Bell Witch situation.
No, she came to cleanse, but she used his hair in the ritual and some other things, and she just brought something else.
Nice. Do you recommend it?
If you're into ghost investigation shows and movies, I recommend both of them, 1 and 2.
Well, this past week I'm sorry, go ahead.
You get to actually see the some of the things taking place, some of the knocking, some of the things falling over and such.
So it isn't built up like Hollywooded out, like kind of like your Ghost Adventures or your Ghost Hunters are.
No, it's an actual ghost team doing their own investigation, and they ended up on YouTube. But you know how Amazon takes some YouTube shows and put it up to watch?
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing.
Okay. Sounds very interesting. I have to keep a lookout for it. I haven't had much time this week. I've been working quite a bit. But I went ahead and finished Resident Alien, a TV show that I think it comes on Sci-Fi. Mm-hmm. It stars Alan Tudyk, and if you haven't watched this show, it's on Netflix, it's on Hulu. Give it a watch. It's funny as hell. Alan Tudyk is you'll see Alan Tudyk and you'll be like, oh, it's that guy. He's always funny, especially as a straight man, but in here he kind of is the one with the humor. So you'll be laughing if you're watching this show. That's really what I've been doing. I've been finishing that up. They just finished season 3. I think season 4 is supposed to come out sometime soon, if it has not already been out. But that is what I watched this week.
He is funny, whether it's animated or live action. I always recommend that guy.
Yeah, Alan Tudyk is funny as hell. I love him in Dale and Tucker versus Evil.
Oh yeah, that was a great movie.
That movie was that'll have you laughing. We'll do some quick movie. We'll do a couple of quick ones because we did lose a couple of actors this week. We're still waiting on that third one because it always comes in 3s. But our first death this week, of course, was Michelle Trachtenberg, who was 39. They don't really have a cause of death yet, but they do believe that she passed away. I guess she just had her liver transplant recently.
Uh-huh.
So, and they think her body rejected the liver. Her mom...
She's my age.
Yeah, her mom found her, went to check on her in her apartment and found her. Michelle Trachtenberg, of course, Harriet the Spy, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She played Dawn Summers, Buffy's sister. And one of my favorite movies, Eurotrip. So rest in peace, Michelle Trachtenberg. Like, That one just came out of nowhere.
I was not expecting that.
No. And then, of course, the bigger news, only because there's a lot of questions behind it. Gene Hackman passed away. He was 95. I think they got the autopsy. They've done the autopsy, and they're still saying that there's no foul play.
Yes, but how did he, his wife, and his dog all die at the same time? I am so confused.
Well, a lot of people are saying that it could have been carbon monoxide poisoning. I know there were pills on the ground, so that could have took out the dog if the dog ate them.
Yeah.
And like just, it's just a sad, tragic, thing. My favorite role, and I think I've heard a lot of people saying this lately, but one of my favorite roles that Gene Hackman played, besides Lex Luthor in the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, was in The Birdcage.
Oh, yeah.
He plays the conservative senator whose daughter is getting ready to marry Robin Williams and Nathan Lane's son. Of course, Robin Williams and Nathan Lane's are a gay couple that own a drag club in, I believe it's Miami. That movie is good.
I was going to say I love The Quick and the Dead, and I love The Birdcage.
Yeah, he was really good in The Quick and the Dead, too. But he will always be Lex Luthor to me. But other than that, let's see. Do I got anything? We will. I got one thing. It looks like. So Arrow, a boutique. They're a boutique collector's dream because they go back and get a lot of old classic movies that were never released on DVD and Blu-ray. They have released what their March 2025 lineup. So on March 7th, they're going to debut 3 movies. Two movies and a TV show. Violent Panic: The Big Crash. Takashi, an expert bank robber, plans to pull off the biggest heist of his career, stealing 300 million yen before fleeing to Brazil. However, Takashi finds himself alone and his getaway is spoiled when the robbery goes awry. Trailed by the police, his lover, and his partner in crime's brother, and countless others, Takashi becomes the target of a manhunt filled with twists, double crosses, and explosive action. That just sounds fun.
Very much so.
The one thing I will say about Arrow, though, you will pay out the ass for their DVDs. Like they charge almost $40 or $50. They'll probably end up being at the convention here in a couple of weeks. Next is Heroes Shed No Tears. Eddie Ko stars as Cheng Chung, the leader of an elitist Chinese commando force enlisted by the Thai government to capture General Samton, a powerful drug lord from the Golden Triangle. After a successful raid on the general's headquarters, the mercenaries cross into Vietnam and encounter a barbaric colonel, Lam Ching Ying, I am probably butchering names, who is determined to stop them at any cost. Now pursued by both Samton's henchmen and the colonel's troops, the heroes flee for the border of Thailand, outmanned and outgunned by their enemies. And finally, RoboCop the TV series. From 1994, it's basically, if you've seen RoboCop, I think everybody's seen RoboCop.
Oh, yeah.
People know what RoboCop's about. It's still Alex Murphy as RoboCop, or who is still the RoboCop. I don't know who's playing Alex Murphy, but if you haven't seen RoboCop, please go watch it. It's an amazing movie. On March 14th, we have Body Count. New Orleans cops try to capture 2 ruthless assassins who are trying to avenge themselves against cops who had previously set them up. And then we have Mirror Mirror and Mirror Mirror 2, Raven Dance, coming out. I think I've seen Mirror Mirror and I didn't care for it.
Huh.
And On the 21st, we have Blood Theater. An old movie house plagued with a history of unexplained tragedies is reopened with bloody history repeating itself. Kind of almost sounds like Demons.
Yes.
Mausoleum. A 10-year-old girl mourning the death of her mother becomes possessed by a demon who has been preying on her female ancestors for centuries. Years later, the demon starts to take over her mentally and physically. And finally, on the 14th, the final movie is Slaughterhouse. The owner of a slaughterhouse facing foreclosure instructs his obese and mentally disabled son to go on a killing spree against the people who want to buy his property. I've seen Slaughterhouse. That's a good movie.
Oh, yes.
I believe all three of these are on Tubi right now. March 21st, you got Starry Eyes from 2019. I'm sorry. You have the 2019 adaptation of Stephen King's Pet Sematary. In the collection, other titles include The Gorgor Girls, My Sweet Satan, and Deadbeat at Dawn. And on the 31st, you have I Spit on Your Grave and I Spit on Your Grave Deja Vu. Now they do have, Arrow seems to have their own streaming service. For a subscription is $6.99 a month or $69.99 yearly. They don't really give much more information about that, but Arrow's always put out some decent stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, we've been going about 51 minutes. We're going to go ahead and take our break. When we come back, we'll talk about the history of Mardi Gras, the traditions and the not so traditional stuff, like what you were encouraged to do to receive certain beads. And we'll also talk about the video nasty list and what that means. And some of the ridiculous movies that are on this list.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Oh, you're going to laugh because you guys just covered one recently on Tomb.
That doesn't surprise me.
But all right, guys, we'll be back in about 3 minutes. See you then.
Greetings and shabibans. We are the Retro Reductopus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite Steve's trying to say is that on Retro Reductopus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Door King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Reductopus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
And just like that, we're back.
Yay!
That ad break does go really quickly.
Oh yeah.
Like it's 3 minutes long and it just flies by. But welcome back. I am your host. Welcome back to the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. I, of course, am your host, Sewer Dweller, always joined by Friday.
I love this place.
So, as I was saying at the beginning of the stream, it is Mardi Gras weekend. I really think Mardi Gras is the only... There's parades all weekend and stuff like that, but the big day, of course, is Tuesday. For Fat Tuesday, because, you know, as of Midnight Wednesday, you're in Lent and you're not supposed to be doing certain things during Lent, but I think at least my sect of the Catholic, when I was growing up, it was you had to choose something. It wasn't, you know, you couldn't eat this. You know, I know, you know, pork and things like that, but you couldn't. Like it wasn't that you weren't allowed to commit any of the 7 deadly sins, you know, for 30 days because you're not supposed to commit them ever, but you're supposed to give something up for Lent is what you were supposed to do. But needless to say, we do know there is a history behind Mardi Gras. And Jen, what do you know? What do you know about Mardi Gras history at all?
Nothing.
Well, I think everybody we all know it comes from France. Because those are the settlers who settled Louisiana originally, was the French. But it got started. So Mardi Gras is a tradition that dates back thousands of years to pagan celebrations of spring and fertility, including the raucous Roman festivals of Saturnalia and Lupercalia. But when Christianity arrived in Rome, religious leaders decided to incorporate these popular local traditions into the new faith, an easier task than abolishing them altogether. Basically, when the Christians showed up to Rome, you weren't really going to get them to stop having, you know, their orgies or overindulging on wine or food and things like that. Essentially, the Caesars would have told you to fuck right on off.
Yeah, basically.
So, as a result, the excess and debauchery of the Mardi Gras season became a prelude to Lent, the 40 days of fasting and penance between Ash Wednesday and Easter Sunday. Along with Christianity, Mardi Gras spread from Rome to other European countries, including France, Germany, Spain, and England. Mardi is the French word for Tuesday, and gras means fat. In France, the day before Ash Wednesday came to be known as Mardi Gras or Fat Tuesday. Traditionally, in the days leading up to Lent, merrymakers would binge on all the rich fatty foods, meat, eggs, milk, lard, and cheese that remained in their homes in anticipation of several weeks of eating only fish and different types of fasting. And that's where I sign off because I cannot eat fish. I do not like fish. But the word carnival, another common name for the pre-Lenten festivals, also derives from this feasting tradition in medieval Latin carnivarium. I think I just cast a spell in Harry Potter there. And it means to take away or remove meat, from the Latin carnum for meat. So, we come over to America, and the first American Mardi Gras takes place on March 3rd, 1699, when French explorers, I'm not French, guys, please don't yell at me, I'm not French, Pierre Le Moyne de Leberville and Sieur de Bienville, I'm not French, guys, sorry, landed near present-day New Orleans, Louisiana. They held a small celebration and dubbed their landing spot Point du Mardi Gras. Some argue the port city of Mobile, Alabama was actually the first to observe the event. Yeah, there's actually a really big debate about that. I caught a couple of them on there that the first it's kind of like with the flight. There's actually a big debate between Dayton, Ohio, and Nags Head, North Carolina, or Kill Double Hills, North Carolina, over who really gets credit for the first flight. Is it Dayton because the Wright brothers built the plane here or designed the plane here and are from here and then took it to North Carolina? Or is it North Carolina where the first plane was built and flown? Right, there's a big debate for that, just as there is for the Mardi Gras. Because some people will say, well, they'll go to their graves saying that the first Mardi Gras took place in Mobile. So, in the decades that followed, New Orleans and other French settlements began marking the holiday with street parties, masked balls, and lavish dinners. When the Spanish took control of New Orleans, however, they abolished these rowdy rituals and the bans remained in force until Louisiana became a U.S. state in 1812. On Mardi Gras in 1827, a group of students donned colorful costumes and danced through the streets of New Orleans, emulating the revelry they'd observed while visiting Paris. 10 years later, the first recorded New Orleans Mardi Gras parade took place, a tradition that continues to this day. In 1857, a secret society of New Orleans businessmen called the Mystic Crew of Comus organized a torch-lit Mardi Gras procession with marching bands and rolling floats, setting the tone for future public celebrations in the city. Since then, crews have remained a fixture of the carnival scene throughout Louisiana. Other lasting customs include throwing beads and other trinkets, wearing masks, decorating floats, and eating a king cake. Louisiana is the only state in which Mardi Gras is a legal holiday. However, elaborate carnival festivities draw crowds in other parts of the United States during the Mardi Gras season, as well as including Alabama and Mississippi. Each region has its own events and traditions. So, there are 6 famous popular traditions that come from Mardi Gras. Any thoughts so far, Jen?
I know about the general idea of the food, the king cake, the flashing.
Well, that's people in New Orleans will hit you for saying that. The actual residents of New Orleans swear up and down it is not a tradition, that it is something that drunk tourists do.
Alrighty.
That's them though. They apparently do not like it.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
I can see that, but also it's a thing that happens, and it seems like for the tourists, then it would be the tradition.
I mean, if you don't want that tourist money.
Exactly.
But I'm pretty sure your economy thrives on that tourist money.
Dude, they thrive on the tourist money all year long. They've even had our money recently. Yes. So, yeah.
I would love to go to New Orleans. That's one of the places I've never got to go. One of the many places I want to go that I haven't got to go, but that's like up at the top of the bucket list. But our first tradition is the cruise. Within 2 decades after the French explorer Lemoyne, I'm not going to try to say that name again, founded New Orleans in 1718, the city's annual celebrations of Carnival had become an annual event, complete with masked balls and other festivities. Parades commemorating Mardi Gras, the last day of Carnival, and the day before Ash Wednesday, the first day of Lent, officially began in 1838. By 1857, however, New Orleans Mardi Gras celebrations had become so marred by drunkenness and violence that city officials were about to do away with them. Instead, several members of a group known as the Caubellion de Rankin Society, which had held a parade annually on New Year's Eve since 1830s, stepped forward. they proposed forming a new private club that would stage its own Mardi Gras parade as an orderly alternative to the chaos that currently existed. They called their new organization the Mystic Crew of Comus, the Greek god of revelry. Today, more than 70 crews parade through New Orleans on Mardi Gras after celebrating the 2 weeks of carnival with invitation-only balls and supper dances. So if I'm understanding this right, when you're in New Orleans, I know randomly people will start playing, a random jazz band or band will start playing and marching through. Apparently those are the crews.
I didn't see one the 2 days I was there.
Well, from the sound of it, were you at Mardi Gras or?
No, I'm just saying I didn't get to see a band and I was sad.
Yeah, I think they only do it at Mardi Gras. Among the most famous crews, this is the second. This is the number 2. Rex, King of Carnival. Among the most famous crews is the Crew of Rex, founded in 1872. That year, the Grand Duke Alexis Romanov Alexandrovich, brother to the heir apparent to the Russian throne, accepted an invitation to attend Mardi Gras festivities in New Orleans. Prominent city businessmen organized the visit as a way of attracting tourism and business to the city after the Civil War. Forming a new crew of prominent citizens, they had designated the crew's leader for the year as Rex, Latin for king. Officially called the School of Design, the crew is more commonly known as the Crew of Rex, and every year since, a prominent person has been chosen to be Rex, that year's King of Carnival. The Grand Duke was the first one, and given the symbolic key to the city by the mayor. So, basically, the marshal of the parade.
Yes.
Number 3, bead throwing. So the true meaning of the famous Mardi Gras beads begins with their traditional colors, which we also owe to the Russian Grand Duke Alexis. During his visit in 1872, the newly found Crew of Rex chose the colors of the Duke's royal house for the beads that crew members would throw from their parade float into the crowds of Mardi Gras revelers. Later, they assigned meaning to each color. Purple stood for justice, green stood for faith, and gold for power. The idea was to toss the beads to those in the crowd who exhibited these traits. Yeah, we abandoned that real quick, didn't we?
Yes.
The people who caught them were said to get a good luck for the coming year. Though the beads were originally glass, you knock somebody out with them now. Nowadays, they're made of plastic and are one of the most popular Mardi Gras traditions. So we can thank Russia for the beads.
Cool.
Zulu coconuts. Also among the most coveted of Mardi Gras parade throws are Zulu coconuts, the round, painted, glittery orbs thrown out by members of the Zulu Social Aid and Pleasure Club. One of the oldest traditionally African American crews, Zulu held its first parade in 1909. The very next year, as the historical record shows, they began tossing coconuts to members of the crowd. Originally, the coconuts were left in their natural brown, hairy state, but a tradition soon began of painting them and decorating them with glitter. Nowadays, Zulu coconuts are handed into the crowd rather than thrown to avoid injuries and lawsuits.
Yes.
You say something again real quick?
I said yes.
Okay. No. I think a part of my cord came unplugged because I'm sitting here going, why can't I hear anything out of the left ear? So we're at number 5 now, the flambeau. The blazing torches lighting the way for parade goers during nighttime Mardi Gras festivities are called flambeaux, French for torch. And they date back to a custom established by the original Mardi Gras crew, Comus. In the mid-19th century, the torches were a necessity due to the lack of sufficient street lighting. The original flambeau carriers were slaves and free men of color, and their torches were probably made with shredded rope soaked in pitch and set ablaze. Crowds lining the parade route would toss coins to the flambeau carriers, a tradition that still continues today. Over the years, however, Mardi Gras flambeau has evolved into a kind of performance art as the robe-wearing carriers twirl and dance with their torches, now much lighter and fueled by butane or kerosene. So, and finally, number 6, the king cake. So the story behind one of Mardi Gras' most popular foods dates back to the Middle Ages. That's when people began celebrating the tradition of the 3 kings who brought gifts to the baby Jesus on the 12th night, the end of Christmas and the beginning of Epiphany. Along with giving special gifts to children, the custom arose to eat a special kind of cake for the occasion. King cakes are now consumed throughout the season, beginning on the 12th night, January 6th, and ending on Mardi Gras. Originally just a simple ring of dough, the king cake took different forms over the years. Today, the most popular form is a braided Danish pastry laced with cinnamon and iced in the Mardi Gras colors of purple, green, and gold. According to a tradition launched in the 1940s by Donald Ensugar, who owned one of New Orleans' largest commercial bakeries, a tiny baby figurine meant to represent Jesus was baked inside each cake. How long did it take somebody to choke on that? That's my question. The baby
don't have an answer.
Yeah, because someone choked on that shit. The baby is usually made of plastic, but in the past years was sometimes porcelain or even gold. According to custom, whoever gets the baby in his or her slice must buy the next cake or host the next party. Shit. As with Zulu coconuts, however, fear of lawsuits has led to changes in the king cake tradition. I told you, somebody choked on one. Many bakeries have recently stopped baking baby figurines into their cakes, instead choosing to package them separately for customers to insert themselves.
The one that Sky Turner's husband went to, they had put it in the middle of the cake, and because it's a ring cake with the center is gone like a donut, and they've just started putting their little baby figurines in the middle.
Okay. Which is probably a lot smarter.
Yes.
So, the question leads us now to the tradition/non-tradition of women flashing their boobs for beads at Mardi Gras. Again, the people of New Orleans don't like this. They're not going to stop it because, of course, like I said, they like money, and tourists between men coming down to want to see the women do this, and the drunk women who are encouraged to do this will stop coming down if they say, hey, you can't do that.
True.
So, beads have been a part of Mardi Gras celebrations, as we already said, since the 1890s, when a carnival king threw fake jewelry to his clothed subjects. But flashing for beads didn't begin until the 1970s. There are a few different origin theories for this behavior. Dr. Wesley Schrum, a professor of sociology at Louisiana State University, published his research into ritual disrobement at Mardi Gras in 1996. He sounds like a nerd.
Mm-hmm.
He discovered that flashing for beads during Mardi Gras in the French Quarter in the mid-70s, when a nudist group decided to try to get a passerby to flash them. A grown-up version of "I'll show you mine if you show me yours," he says. Soon, he says, nudists began enticing would-be flashers with the promise of beads as a reward. By the early 1980s, it had become common for both men and women to flash their boobs, butts, and sometimes even genitals for beads on Bourbon Street during Mardi Gras. I will say that I do know for a fact if you flash your genitals, you will go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Boobs are fine, genitals are not. In fact, flashing for beads was so ubiquitous that by the time Dr. Strom attended his first Mardi Gras in 1983, it was so common that when I tried to find out when this all started, people said, "Oh, it's been going on forever. It's just a Mardi Gras tradition. It started a long time ago." He says, well, it hadn't started a long time ago. It had only just begun going on for around 5 years. So there you go. This is why women flash for beads, because a group of nudists wanted someone to flash them and basically say, hey, we'll give you beads if you flash us. And they got flashed. So I would assume they did it again and again and again. And now it's a tradition. Or not if you live in, I guess if you live in New Orleans, I guess it's not a tradition, but guys, it's a tradition. So that is the history of Mardi Gras. That is why we celebrate today, or this weekend. Tuesday, of course, being the biggest day. So now we move on to the movie. So the movie, Mardi Gras Massacre, let me bring up my thing again. It was released in 1978, but it was not released until 1983. 5 years after its completion, and it was given an X rating by the MPAA. It opened in St. Louis, Missouri on February 11th, 1983, and in Kansas City, Missouri on March 26th, 1983, as a triple bill with Humanoids, and Jen, you're not going to believe this, but Sorceress.
I can see it.
I can see it, but that's pretty cool that we've now done 2 of that triple bill, so now I guess we're going to have to go find Humanoids. And the film was on the UK government's list of video nasties in the 1980s, but in 2022, the film was finally submitted to the British Board of Film Classification and received an uncut 18 certificate for UK release. Now, some of you might be asking, what is the video nasty list? Excuse me. So the video nasty list was never an official government document, but it is a colloquial term popularized by the National Viewers and Listeners Association in the United Kingdom to refer to a number of films, typically low-budget horror or exploitation films, distributed on VHS in the early 1980s that were criticized by the press, social commenters, and various religious organizations for their violent content. These video releases were not brought before the British Board of Film Classification, which is like our MPAA, due to a loophole in film classification laws that allowed films to bypass the review process. The resulting uncensored video releases led to public debate concerning the availability of these films to children due to the unregulated nature of the market. Following a campaign led by Mary Whitehouse and the NVALA, prosecutions were commenced against individuals engaged in trades exploiting allegedly obscene videos. To assist local authorities in identifying obscene films, the Director of Public Prosecutions relisted a list of 72 films the office believed to violate the Obscene Publications Act of 1959. This list included films that had either been previously acquitted of obscenity or already obtained BBFC certification. In addition, a second list was released that contained an additional 82 titles which were not believed to lead to obscenity convictions but could nonetheless be confiscated under the Act's forfeiture laws. The resultant confusion regarding the definition of obscene material led to Parliament passing the Video Recordings Act of 1984, which required certification of video releases by the BBFC. Did you get that?
Yes, I got that.
So, Section 1, prosecuting, I'm not going to go through all of these because there's 39 films that if you had these films, you would be prosecuted. Absurd. Anthropophagus, the Beast. It ended up, basically a lot of these movies have been passed or are now available. Anthropophagus, the Beast is one of them. Absurd was as well. A movie called Axe, Bay of Blood, Beast in Heat, Blood Feast, Blood Rights, and Bloody Moon. Blood Rights is still no UK release. Blood Feast was released with 23 seconds cut in 2001 and then re-released again in 2005. But the 2005 release is uncut. The Burning, Cannibal Apocalypse, Cannibal Pharaoh, and of course, Cannibal Holocaust. Don't Go in the Woods, The Driller Killer, Evil Speak, Faces of Death. They did end up releasing Faces of Death with 2 minutes and 19 seconds cut due to animal cruelty in 2003. Flesh for Frankenstein, The House by the Cemetery, I Spit on Your Grave. They did end up getting released with 7 minutes and 2 seconds cut. Needless to say, I think we know which part was cut. Island of Death, Last House on the Left, Mardi Gras Massacre. So basically, if you owned this movie, Jen, if you watched this movie in the UK, you could be arrested.
I am glad I'm in the US because I don't want to be arrested because of a podcast.
Yes. Well, I don't think they actually arrest people anymore for them, but they're just not allowed to sell them in that. So, the other half of the list is 33 titles, non-prosecuted films, which is basically you couldn't own them, but you wouldn't get prosecuted if you did. But what would you do if I told you The Evil Dead is on this list?
I'd find that hilarious because I have the still book.
It was originally passed with cuts for cinema, released with approximately 2 minutes cut in 1990. It got re-released uncut in 2001. How about The Funhouse?
Dude, that's interesting. It makes sense, but seriously.
The only offensive thing in The Funhouse I could even think of was at the beginning where the little boy was spying on his sister showering.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I could think of with that movie.
I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it. I haven't watched it in a couple of years.
The Toolbox Murder, The Witch Who Came from the Sea, Women Behind Bars, and Zombie Creeping Flesh are just a few of the movies. But yes, Evil Dead. That's how ridiculous this list is. Evil Dead is on the list. So now with all of that out of the way, we know the history of Mardi Gras. We know the history of the flashing. And we also know the history of the Video Nasty list. Well, most of it. I didn't go through all of it because I'd be here for days.
Yes.
But it's time to focus on the movie again, which filmed in 1978 but released in 1983. Nobody in this movie has ever done anything else, really. Like, this movie has a cast of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 people. Now, the director, Jack Weiss, has done a few other things. He's done 6 total movies, one of which was the Melissa Etheridge The Awakening live TV special. But Mardi Gras Massacre was the last thing he did for 30 years before he directed that special. The other ones of his movies are also exploitation movies like Storyville, Quadroon, Death Brings Roses, and Crypt of Dark Secrets. The movie stars Kurt Dawson as Detective Sergeant Frank Abraham. Talking to Jen before the show, this is her favorite character. We have Gwen Arment as Sherry. William Mezzo as John. That is the killer. How many times did they tell us his name?
I don't remember hearing his name.
They don't. They never once told us his name. Laura Mish Owens as Shirley. Catherine Lacey as Dancer with Monk. Nancy Dancer as 19-year-old Dancer. Butch Bennett as Sam the barman. Wayne Mack as the police captain. Ronald Tennant as Sergeant Mayer. Don Davison as Dr. Lewis the antiquities expert. And John Kilsavage as Man in Tuxedo. That's the whole cast list for Mardi Gras Massacre.
Alrighty.
So if we are ready to get started, let us dive in to Mardi Gras Massacre. So first we start out with about 25 seconds of just the words Mardi Gras Massacre on our screen. I wish I was exaggerating, but I am not. No. Like, there's no music. There's, like, nothing. It's just Mardi Gras Massacre. Now, let me also say, and I'll get this early, if it wasn't for the name Mardi Gras Massacre, we would have no fucking clue that this movie was set in New Orleans or during Mardi Gras. Because it's 35 minutes into the movie before anybody mentions Mardi Gras or even New Orleans. Just saying. So the movie starts out, we're in a bar, and Shirley, well, that's not Shirley, that was Sherry, and her friend walk in and sit at the bar and start talking to Sam the barman. Right away, we know that they're hookers because Sam the barman uses the terminology Trick and Johns. And he tells them how much money the girls are making and that. From behind, this really creepy looking dude walks in. And this is John. This is our killer. I can say this because this is not a murder mystery.
Yeah.
What did you think of John, Jen?
He was creepy and he has an agenda.
That he does. He walks in. Sherry and her friends start flirting with him, because he starts waving cash around and that. And he wants to know who the most evil girl in the bar is. Now, if that's not a red fucking flag, I can't tell you what is. Because that would just, might as well have a red flag the size of Sherry's dress, because she is wearing a bright red dress.
I counted 3 red flags, but continue.
What were the other 2 for you?
He's creepy. He zeroed in on the one the two that he was very sure were probably prostitutes and hookers. And then he used money to talk them into something. And then, for some odd reason, he wants something evil.
Yes, he wants the most evil without a doubt. And they volunteer their friend Shirley. Now, I've known a few prostitutes in my life, and their whole deal is trying to get money. I don't know a single prostitute that wouldn't just go, yeah, I'm evil. I'm the most evil bitch in here. Come on, take me. But no, these girls go, oh yeah, no, our friend Shirley there, she's pretty fucking evil. Like she kicked a puppy. So he goes down and sits with Shirley. They have a chat, and he basically offers her $200 to come back to his room with him. She goes up, has Sam hold the money, and then we cut. The cuts in this movie are kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just immediate, like shut the camera off, get to the scene, turn the camera back on. Like the editing is terrible. So they get to his apartment. He offers her a glass of wine. She's kind of like, dude, I just want to get this shit done and over with. So basically he brings her into this room. And again, the amount of red flags in this room. This is clearly a dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
With a table right in the middle of it. He tells her to strip her clothes down and to, jump on the table. So, this has been a tradition of mine on here because it's kind of what Mr. Skin does. And in the honor of Mr. Skin, at 6 minutes and about 5 seconds, we get our first shot of boobs. But we don't only get boobs.
Everything.
We get that's right. We get the triple B's according to Mr. Skin. Boobs, butt, and bush. And it is the 70s and the bush is there. This girl just hops up on the table. Behold my glory, and lays down. All of a sudden, the curtains get pulled back, and there's John Nell dressed. Oh, she hasn't gotten to the table yet. I'm sorry. Dressed in what looks like some kind of outfit made out of hotel towels.
Probably was.
Yeah. Wearing an Aztec mask. And this dude is clearly holding a dagger with a spearhead. He tells her to get on the table, and she just, oh yeah, okay, no problem. Not, motherfucker, were you just holding a knife? So he has her get on the table, tells her to lie down, and starts rubbing this oil on her, which she clearly enjoys, which I had a feeling that was going to be something enjoyable. Who doesn't like a nice massage with oils? But as he's doing this, he starts tying her feet up. Which apparently either she's okay with or she doesn't feel. Then he starts tying her hands up. So she is completely now tied to this thing by all her appendages are tied. He rubs a little more oil on her, and then he says it's time to start the ritual. But it's funny because when he rubs the oil on her, it's clearly a fake torso because they do a close-up, and you can tell it's a fake torso.
Oh, yeah. But they do try to change it as you go through the film so it matches.
Kind of. This first one really didn't. That's kind of how I figured. So I'm like, wait a minute, that don't look like the size of her breasts.
No.
But it's fine, it's whatever. We know why it's there. So he keeps rubbing her up, which is getting kind of creepy at this point. And he turns to look at this almost like a totem statue, kind of. We find out later that it's an old Aztec god that he's praying to. She asks him what he's doing, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to sacrifice you." And she's just like, "Wait, what?" So he grabs his dagger, and the first thing he does is he takes his ring and cuts her right on her left breast. He tells her she starts screaming. He tells her to scream all she wants. The room is soundproof. He lays the dagger on her torso, her body, goes to her hand and says, "The hand that accepted the money for your evil," and stabs her in the hand. Then he goes to the foot and says, "This is the foot that brought you to evil, or brought you to commit your evil." And then finally, he moves up to her torso. We of course get the close up of the fake torso. And he says, I missed what he said. Hold on. I believe he says, this is the instrument that you use for your evil. I'm sorry, for the part of you use for your evil. And he basically cuts out her woman parts.
Yes.
I believe it's either her uterus or her ovary. One or the other.
It's supposed to look like it is, but it's all wrong.
But we know what he's really going for, even though it's coming out of the stomach, not the pelvic area.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying where he's reaching and how little he's doing to cut through. That's 7 layers, man.
Look, we only got an hour and a half in this movie, okay?
I know.
It's got to go quick.
I understand. It's just one of those. Really?
Yeah, it's like it's just a little bit, just a book. It's the 1970s. Encyclopedias are readily available. So he holds it up to the god. She's dead. Like, she's automatically dead. We then cut to the next morning, the police finding her body and loading it up into a coroner, which is a pickup truck painted light blue and white. But what made me laugh was we cut over to the left. There's no police car or anything. There's literally just one of those meter maid scooters.
Yes.
Like, if you found a dead body, there should be at least 3 police cars. But they just found out a railroad track. They're like, nah, fuck that. Send a meter maid mobile. I had to chuckle at that one.
Dude, and there's only like 3 cops.
It wasn't even 3. It was 2, and then the paramedic.
Yeah. Well, there's only like 3 people, and it's like, what the flying? What?
It's like they were just like, yeah, get it off. Just get it off the freaking railroad tracks. We got trains to bring through here. But then again, it's like I don't really joke around, but it's one of the things that when you're listening to like some of these serial killer podcasts and that kill prostitutes and that, you always hear the, like, after a couple of hookers get killed, the police force essentially just go, it's just hookers. Like, every time. So it's kind of like what they're doing. It's like it's just a hooker. Do we really need the whole police force for a hooker? Like, no, it's a dead body. How about we have it for the dead body? So they load her up, and we just cut inside. Again, the editing and the cuts are ridiculous. We cut into the office of, well, that's not the chief. I believe that is the, hold on. I believe it's the medical examiner or someone. They're talking to him, and apparently they already figured out that it's what the girl's name was. They know she's Shirley Anderson. They know she's a hooker, and they somehow already know that it's a ritualistic killing. We also, I believe this is when we find out, or here in a minute we find out, that our lead character, Jen's favorite person, Detective Sergeant Frank Abraham, used to be a vice cop, but he has been promoted to homicide.
Yes.
So they say
he's got one heck of an attitude.
Oh yeah, he doesn't. He gives two shits. You're lucky if he gives two. I don't even think he gives one. But he does have, like I've said before, he has an epic mustache. He has a very epic John Holmes style porn mustache.
Oh yeah.
So they basically keep talking. Has this anything like that? Saying, has anything like this happened in New Orleans before? No, but we've also locked in an Interpol and the FBI in on this too. And I just kept waiting for someone to go, hey, there was this one guy in London back in the 1800s who did the same fucking thing. And once again, it was two prostitutes. So they just keep going back and forth about, the rituals and that. There's really nothing adds to the movie. We then cut to the bar from earlier where both police detectives show up. And Jen's buddy wants to talk to Sam, the barman. And Sam, the barman's like, nope, fuck that, you're vice. But then he gets informed that Abraham has been promoted to homicide. So they're trying to talk, this is the last place she was seen alive. And they want to, they asked if Sam knew who she went home with. He said he didn't get a chance to look at him. But there's two girls that did, Sherry and her friend. He also hands good old Abraham the money he was holding for Shirley. And what does your buddy do, Jen?
He pockets it.
Yeah, he keeps the money. And he looks at and it's funny because he looks at the barman and goes, what, you want a receipt? The barman's like, look, I don't give a shit what you do. Look, just get out of my bar, please. You're hurting business here.
Yes.
Like, everybody knows that you used to be a vice cop because you were kind of a dick. So basically Sam points them in the direction of Sherry. Sherry's sitting in the corner of the bar with a guy. I believe that is John Killsavage, man in tuxedo with Sherry. And they told him essentially tell him to get the fuck out of here. So they start talking to Sherry. She asks if this is a bus and that. And she makes the comment, well, great, now we got something brand new. Someone's killing off prostitutes. Abraham says, well, let's just hope it doesn't become an epidemic. So they talk a little more, they talk about how Shirley actually enjoyed being a prostitute and that Sherry doesn't really care for it too much. So basically, they don't get any information out of Sherry, but Abraham asks what she's doing for dinner. Highly inappropriate, in my opinion, but we'll allow it. We'll allow it. So basically, she tells him if he's paying, she'll go with him. Like a hooker does. So they go. It's almost like they don't leave the rest of the room they're in and just go to a different part of the room.
Yes, that's what it seemed like.
And Abraham and Sherry sit down. Mayor goes to sit down, but Abraham's like, no, dude, fuck off. You're cock blocking me here. And Mayor essentially reminds Frank that, dude, you're a cop. Don't do this. Abraham tells him fuck off. Mayor fucks off. So they sit down. They start talking. A waitress comes up, and apparently, I guess she used to be a hooker as well, or a prostitute as well, and got a job as a waiter or server in this restaurant. Detective Abrahams offers, says, hey, why don't we start dinner with a drink, then we'll decide what we want. Old girl goes and orders probably one of the most expensive champagne or wines on the menu. And he goes, nope, just bring us this, she orders, I can't even pronounce it, but it's like a 1970 vintage. And he just goes, nope, just bring us Blue Nun. I'm assuming Blue Nun is pretty cheap.
Yes.
But he does get the waitress to chill the glasses for them. And it's funny because she's sitting there just chill the glasses. And they both look up like, okay. So basically they have a little conversation again. Then the table next to them, there's two women and a guy. The two women get up and shove each other, almost like children would do. The guy gets mad, gets up, and essentially pimp slaps one of the women a couple of times before Dr. Abrams looks at Sherry and goes, hold on a second. Grabs the dude, shoves him against the wall, and essentially tells him, he's a cop. And the other prostitute was going to bash your buddy in the head with a wine bottle. And I'm sure you would have been very sad about that, Jen.
He might have deserved it, just not from him.
So Sherry gets up, saves him from getting bashed in the head with a wine bottle, and convinces. What's the guy's first? I don't want to keep calling him Detective Frank. Convinces Frank to not take them to jail. Tells him that she'll do whatever he wants if you don't take him to jail. So everybody goes back to eating. He agrees, and everybody goes back to eating. The pimp and his two ladies leave. There's some more conversation. Again, just nothing that contributes to the story. We cut back to John's apartment, and Sherry walks out in a nightie, here to pay her, her debt off. She looks him dead in the face and goes, this is the one that I owe you. He kind of starts to be a decent guy and says, you don't owe me nothing. She insists that she always pays her debts off. And he's like, all right, well, let's see what you got. And needless to say, they have sex off camera. We cut to... Hold on, I gotta... I tried to mute myself while this ambulance went by. So we cut to a strip club, which again has the same fucking bar. Am I the only one that noticed it? Jen, did you notice this? That it was the same bar every time?
It is called We Have a Budget and we can only use the one bar.
Yeah, we have a budget of $50 apparently. And in this bar this time, it's a strip club. There's a girl stripping. A redhead, basically John walks in, our killer, and offers to buy. The redhead walks up, asks him to buy her a drink. He agrees. Apparently champagne is $40 a bottle, which I guess in 1978 was a lot of money. A lot of money. But she doesn't get the whole bottle. She just gets a glass. So if you charge me $40 for a glass, I'm going to smack you.
Yes.
They do a cheers, and then he starts off with who is the most evil girl in the building. And she tells her about this. She tells him about this girl in the back. She's the featured attraction, and that she's very expensive. He asks about, how expensive. She tells him, well, I've never been really good at arithmetic, but I'll send her over to you. So she walks backstage where this woman's getting ready, who immediately calls her a bitch. These two obviously kind of don't like each other. So either the girl who went to fetch her set this girl up because of the many, many, many red flags with this guy, or she really is doing her a favor by calling her the most evil girl in the room. She also wants a 10% cut. So now we cut back to the club. A new girl is on stage dancing. We see the evil girl. We don't get a name. Walks out. Just basically walks straight up to John, and they leave. Meanwhile, the stripper is still shaking everything she has on screen for about another minute or two, because that adds to the story. So we're back at the apartment, and it's almost the exact same scene. He turns around, locks the door, tells her she can, offers her a seat, offers her some wine. They have the wine, and she's ready to just get this shit over with, like the other one was. And they walk into the essentially sex dungeon. And again, the same thing happens. He takes his coat off. She starts stripping down. And she's basically the entire time, she's like, oh, I've seen this before. She knows, she basically says, this reminds me of Baltimore. She's tied up, or he starts tying her up, and she's perfectly fine with it. Once again, though, we get all 3 Bs. This one, though, it was the 70s. I think we got our fake boobs on this one.
Yeah, they're too perky. And
Yes.
Then when she lays down, they don't do the right movements. They just stay.
Yes. So she gets tied up, and she's just like, whatever. He brings out she goes, oh, this is the part that I like. So he does the same thing. He starts rubbing her up. Kind of gropes her a few times, so hopefully she agreed to this before she got tied up, the actress. And he tells her that he's going to go prepare, leaves her there. Curtains open up again, and there he is in his hotel towel outfit. Which I gotta say, the dagger with the spearhead is kind of cool.
Yes.
You
can tell which ones he prefers.
Mm-hmm. He wants the evil ones.
Mm-hmm. That and the chest area, which he likes fake better than real.
I don't know. This is the only one I think had fake, though, at least in my opinion.
But she got more attention.
She did. So he does the same thing. He cuts her, he uses his ring to cut on her boob real quick, lays the dagger on her, picks it, but, does a couple of hand waves or whatever, like he's doing a ritual, picks it up again and stabs her in the hand, saying, this is the hand that accepted the cash to do the evil. Walks down to her foot, cuts the foot, because that's what brought her to the evil, and then, again, cuts out her uterus. We get a few more close-ups of this girl, though, than we did the other girl, as he's killing her. Although it is, again, painfully obvious it's a fake torso. Cuts the same way, pulls pretty much the same organ out, and goes about his day. So, Jen, 2 kills in the movie. What are you thinking of the kills?
Well, Well, for a ritualistic murder, it's not half bad. Anatomy-wise, it sucks.
Yes.
And this one's not still breathing at the end like the other one was.
As he probably should have. She shouldn't have been, though. But we're gonna forgive that because, like I said, they probably had like a $50 budget or something. There is no budget. There is no budget on the IMDb page. So we keep going. We're back in the bedroom with Frank and Sherry. They talk. Now we get the typical 70s or 80s falling in love montage with them walking up and down the street, jaywalking, by the way, petting the horse, petting dogs. It's the basically stereotypical, laughable, where they do the fake laugh, and she pretends to feed him something and she pulls it away, and all that kind of stuff, because that shit happens in real life. They finally ends with them sitting on the side of the dock and waving at people on a riverboat who are probably on the riverboat going, the fuck are these people? What? Why is she waving at us? Because those people are clearly just tourists.
Mm-hmm.
So after the montage, we go in, we go back to the police station, and dude is complaining about all the time he's spending with Sherry. Saying something about she's talking about having kids and moving in and da-da-da-da. And he says, I don't want to get married, especially to no damn prostitute. It's like, dude! Why would you just show us this whole falling in love montage and then he's sitting there going, yeah, she's still a fucking hooker.
To show how big of a dick he is.
Well, come on, Jen. I thought he was your friend.
Dude,
So
you have the tendency to be a dick at times too, but at least you don't call me horrible names.
I don't call my wife horrible names. I would never do that to people. Like, I'm an asshole, don't get me wrong. Even in character, I don't do that.
See?
Like, if somebody says I'm fat, I'm just like, well, your hair looks stupid. So now, while they're doing all this, I believe they found the second body, and the chief is like losing his shit, yelling at them because they haven't found the murder of the one hooker they knew about. So now, here's the second hooker's dead. That basically a bunch of people are on his ass. Hold on. Basically, the brass down at City Hall, every two-bit politician, the Hotel Association, are calling him, and they're saying that they have to stop the bad publicity about the killings, or you'll ruin Mardi Gras and cost us a lot of business. We are 37 minutes into this movie, 37 minutes and 55 seconds, and this is the first mention of New Orleans or Mardi Gras. Like, your whole movie is about Mardi Gras. Why is that not a theme?
That is a question.
They're defending themselves. They're saying they got 20 men out there doing this. So then this obvious daughter of a director or daughter of a grip or something walks up in a police uniform and is obviously reading the lines off the piece of paper she's handing to him. This is so bad right here. She called a professor at Duke University, the weird one that delves in ESP. Uh-huh. And basically, he gives her a name and an address for a guy who deals in antiquities. So we're going the psychic route now?
Yes.
Spoiler alert, we do not. He just basically, they go to see him in his office, which again looks like the same office as everybody else. They show them pictures, and they basically start talking about ritualistic killings in America and how they still go on to this day. Your buddy asks about, why they do this, and the doctor tells them that the sacrifice is to establish a link between the world of reality, our world, and the world we don't understand. The Aztecs called their god of the four directions Coatlicue?
Something close to
something
that.
like that. Yeah. They believe that he would bless them of their...
Dude, you're silent. Something happened.
Yeah, I dropped my mic. Basically, I'm rolling my hands around like anybody can see me do it. And I hit my microphone.
Dude, that doesn't stop you from talking with your hands, whether that we see you or not. It's just a habit at this point of life.
It doesn't. But basically, they believed he would bless them for their offerings of the red cactus fruit, which, of course, would be the heart and its blood. He's not pulling the fucking heart. Like, he's not pulling the heart out. He's pulling like the ovaries or the uterus out. He's not pulling a fucking heart. Like, that would make so much more sense. But he goes on. He keeps talking about the Aztec. Would be the heart and its blood. The reason for the sacrifice and the offerings is so that God will endow them with godly powers. It's not unusual, even in Christianity, he says. We have the sacrifice of the mass, the body, and the blood. So basically, he keeps talking about sacrifices. And they realize it's an old Aztec sacrifice, basically. Didn't take them long. Probably could have figured that shit out with an encyclopedia.
Yes. It's probably what he used to tell them this. It sounded like it.
Yes. So now we're back in another strip club, which again is the same fucking bar. This time is a stage, not just, a dance floor. We have a stripper who is literally covered in red paint. She's supposed to be a double, and she's letting the guys put the money on her pitchfork. John, our killer, is sitting there, gives her a $50 bill. I have been to a few strip clubs. I have never once in my life given a stripper a $50 bill. But I've also never went out on a killing spree of hookers either. So there's that.
Yeah. So what was this killing spree of?
Well, I haven't gone on one yet.
Okay, just clarifying.
Yes. So she just keeps doing a dance. After her dance is over, another girl gets on, and this chick doesn't give two shits about the dancing. Again, it's like they just went to a strip club and hired a bunch of strippers for this movie, or hired a bunch of girls off the street. Go, hey, you want to make $20?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, want to come here, just shake your ass real quick, and be in a movie.
Because this one's only red down to her waist.
Yes. So we cut to the other girl, the devil girl, who's going to sit with her pimp and basically tells him, hey, that guy down there in the gray suit slipped me a 50. What do you I should probably go talk to him. Well, take a while. Guess what they're planning? She talks to him for a few minutes. They get up to leave. They're walking down. The pimp gets up almost immediately afterwards. They're walking down the street, and this dude is just hiding behind a wall. Like, not even a wall, but like in a doorway, planted against it, like you remember if you were kids, how you were trying to hide behind a tree. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
This dude is barely hiding. They walk by, like, literally he would have seen him. Walk by,
Oh, yeah.
the pimp jumps on his back. John and the pimp start fighting. The prostitute tries to jump on John's back. He shoves her away. The pimp pulls out a knife. John basically disarms the pimp. The prostitute picks up the knife as they're struggling, goes to stab John. John swirls him around, and the prostitute stabs and kills the pimp. I laughed at this.
Oh, yeah. That was...
Because... Oh, go ahead.
That was one of the fakest kill scenes ever.
That was goofy. It was cartoonish.
Yeah.
And she just stabs him with this little itty bitty knife in his gut, like his stomach. Like, at most, it probably would have been ow. But this dude is dead. Like, he just drops dead. She jumps on him crying, knowing that she's fucked up. And John just goes right back to the same fucking strip club. Like, why would you go back to the same place? And the best part is the extras in the background keep looking at the camera. So then this dude sits down next to him, and this guy got on my last fucking nerve. He is your typical hippie beatnik style. What the hell? Don't know what that was, but we'll delete that. Somebody doesn't understand we don't do politics on here.
Oh, I was looking at the movie with you, but yeah.
Yeah, don't look at that. I've already deleted the comment. We don't do that shit on here. Morgan Lorang, who's given us an angry face on Facebook for some reason, basically was wanted to come on and say nasty things about Trump, which we are not going to allow. We don't allow politics on this podcast. Whether you like him, whether you hate him, it doesn't really matter. We're not going to allow. I don't think we don't do it on the whole network, correct?
We don't talk about politics, and if we talk about religion, it is specific to the piece of work we're talking about. Like the movie, a thing, he's doing sacrifices for his religion.
Yes.
It works in this instance.
So, Morgan, you can go fuck yourself.
Exactly.
So this annoying ass dude shows up. He's like the beatnik hippie style. Sits next to him and starts basically rhyming how he wants him to buy a chick. I think he's trying to pimp is what he's trying to do. You can tell John is getting annoyed with him too. He tells me he wants a chick, and like literally his response to that is I'm the fish. What is your wish? John tells him, I'm looking for something particular. And he keeps bebopping as he's doing this. He says, specialty, I'm the one for you. You're the one for me. And just annoying the shit out of me, basically.
Yeah,
and it goes on like he's trying to get as much money as he can out of the guy. He gets about $250, I'd say, or $300 out of him. And he's still trying to get more, and John goes to take the money. The guy's like, okay, that's enough for me now. Like I think his line was literally like, that's not nice, we'll make the price. We'll make that the price. So the guy goes and finds this very young chick. Well, she's supposed to be young. But in reality, because it's the 70s, she looks like she's in her 30s almost. But I think in reality, we'll talk about that here in a minute. So he takes the girl home. He does the whole guest thing, home, what do you call it? Hospitality thing. Ask her if she needs anything, and she's like, yeah, I could use some food. I haven't eaten all day. So he goes and he orders her some Chinese food.
It's actually quite nice.
Yes. Orders her some food, like a lot of food too. She pours herself some wine, and he basically asks her if she'd like to go freshen up and take a shower. She does. The most you get out of the shower is her behind the glass door. Still see the bush though. You know, John gets the food, and he tips the Chinese driver $10. As he does this, the Chinese driver grabs his hand and shakes it, like bows down and shakes it, thanking him, looking dead at the ring. She finishes her shower. She goes up. She's in a robe now, and they go to eat. This chick, I swear to God, took 2 fucking bites of food and is done. Like, she didn't eat much, or they were really trying to skip ahead.
They were trying to skip ahead because Chinese food, we don't waste that.
No, God, no. We got a place up the street that I like going to get me and the kid like his after school snack, because he eats lunch at like 10 o'clock in the morning. So there's a place up the street that has this $8.50 lunch special where you can get like it'll be General Tso's chicken or some orange chicken, some fried rice. They use pork fried rice. They don't use chicken. And some you get 3 pieces of broccoli with it and an egg roll for $8.50.
Ooh.
So that is one of our favorite places to go for his after school snacks sometimes.
That rocks. They have this Asian inspired restaurant here that is rather new. That's actually really good. We just tried it for the first time for a lunch date. And I really enjoyed their beef and broccoli and their, I think it's their chicken fried rice. Something fried rice.
Yeah, we have, like, the girlfriend likes to go to or the wife. The reason I keep calling her wife or girlfriend is because in my mind she's my wife. We've been together we're getting ready to go on 11 years.
It's common law by now.
Not in Ohio. We don't have that in Ohio. It is. Yeah, in Virginia it's 7 years. But we're not legally married. Just to get everybody I don't have a girlfriend and a wife. I just have her. Because I know it gets confusing sometimes because I say both. But when I say both, I do mean her both times.
We love the Jen.
Yes, we have never legally gotten married. We do not plan to ever legally get married, but I don't see either one of us going anywhere anytime soon.
Nope.
So, but back to the movie. They're done. He brings her into the sacrificial room. And he kind of seems like he's regretting this right now. Like he doesn't want to do this with her.
She's too good for him.
Yes. So she starts to do this really, honestly, a really nice dance. It is. I'm not gonna lie. It is kind of hot. She does a really good job of it. That's why her last name is Dancer. She's done dancing, and you can see he's looking at her a lot differently than he did the previous 2. So he basically tells her she's very beautiful. After she's done dancing with him, but then he asks how old she is. Jen, how old is this girl?
I think she was like 18, 19 years old.
She is 19. He freaks out a little bit. He's like, nope, get the fuck out. Get out. Like, he either can't do it because he actually cares for this girl, or I'm leaning more towards that she's 19 and age has something to do with it. She's getting mad, she's telling him, you paid good money for me. If you want to try something different, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, lady, just leave. He's already paid. Leave. She refuses to leave, and now you're going to regret it.
Yes.
She removes her panties. He tells her, get up on the bed and lie down. So guess what time? And he starts tying her up. And he's like doing this roughly and quickly this time. More of the Triple B.
Uh-huh.
And this one doesn't have very much bush. Make sure he rubs his hand over it too. That's kind of, that was kind of weird. And it's time for him to go change into his hotel towel outfit with the oil. He brings the oil in. Again, he's doing the exact same stuff to each girl, which, I mean, that's consistency. I'll give the movie that. It's consistent to where he does the same ritual to every girl in the same manner with the same words. Pours the oil on her, starts to massage her. Of course, she enjoys this. Raises his hand and walks over to get his dagger. She starts freaking out and it's like, yeah, you want to leave now? You had a chance 10 minutes ago, but no. Cuts her breast with his ring. Does the hand thing, but she fights a little bit. Like, he has to fight her hand open. Goes to the foot, has to fight with the foot a little bit before he does the foot thing. And finally cuts out her uterus. This girl did a really good job. I'm kind of shocked she didn't do much after this because, like, she did a really good job.
Oh, yeah.
She's probably one of the better actors in the movie.
Definitely.
So he's killed her. So this is victim number 3. Killed all 3 the exact same way with the exact same weapon in the exact same room. We now cut to Sherry and Frank in the apartment again. And Sherry's on the phone with somebody and can't believe what she's hearing. Frank asks who it was. She's not answering him. He asks her what's the matter, and she immediately goes, you took Shirley's money. Well, then who the fuck were you on the phone with? Like, there's only one person she could have been on the phone with because there's only one person who knows he took the money. And she's pissed. Like, she looks at her, she calls him a no good goddamn cop, all that good stuff. You cheat, you lie, you steal. And you get on me for being a hooker. You took the dead girl's money. You took it and you put it in your pocket. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
For Christ's sake, we all had to pitch in to bury her. And it's like, oh, now I feel bad. And all he does is being his dickhead self. Literally looks at her and goes, at least I'm not $100 a night hooker, a goddamn whore. And it's like, damn, this is your first fight and that you're already going there?
Yes. Told you he took dick to a new level.
Yes, like, she calls him a pig. Basically, she tells him that he ain't worth $100 a night. If you were a broad, you'd be lucky to turn a $2 black trick. And I'm just like, whoa. I hope they don't mean race, the race right there, because this is 1978, and that's not okay in 1978. Not that it's okay now, but. And what does he do in response?
He just stands there. And as she walks out.
He slaps the shit out of her.
Oh, that part. I forgot about that part.
He, like, pimp slaps this chick. It's like, dude, you're a cop. You're not supposed to know how to do that.
No. But it's an ingrained skill.
Yeah. Right across the face. Once backhand, once across. He tries to apologize to her, and she's like, no, fuck this. I'm leaving. She calls him a buster, which I had to laugh at because I ain't never heard anybody call anybody a buster in years.
No, not in a long time.
So she goes, basically cut to a bar with a bunch of people dancing and a guy who is dressed like a fucking minion in 1978. I'm talking, he's got the blue overalls and a yellow shirt. I had to laugh at that because it's like, yeah. And it's funny because at the bar, somehow she doesn't see him. Sitting down the table from her is Frank's partner. So that we get more dancing. She's drinking, she's getting drunk. She starts to feel the energy and she starts dancing on the dance floor by herself. It's disco music. It's a disco, the 1970s. Disco's not dead yet. So she's dancing. She starts dancing with this guy, with this random guy on the floor. And apparently someone saw it and didn't care for that because she gets pissed, comes onto the floor, and we have a good old-fashioned cat fight. Again, this adds nothing to the story.
No.
But the girls, and it's really just your, pulling hair, rolling around, slapping a little bit. Till Frank's partner goes on the dance floor, breaks up the fight, and basically walks her home arm in arm as if he's dating her. And at that point, I was like, uh-oh. This is going to cause a little bit of trouble. But the good news is he just leaves her at home to sleep it off. Meanwhile, they're bringing in the third body, which I swear to God, they're carrying her on a dolly, like a refrigerator dolly.
Yeah.
Because only one side has wheels. The captain comes in and starts losing his shit again because the third body's been found and tells them they need to get their asses on the street. So now we get the typical 80s detective movie montage of the two of them walking up and down the street, just going into random bars and talking to people.
Clint Eastwood did it better.
He did. He really did. Crappy music going on. Then we end up at this one bar with a guy in a Saints shirt, a Saints jersey. And he's talking to his buddies. And I'm trying to get there. He's talking to his buddies about what the cops want. And he tells them literally some crazies running around cutting up broads. Doing what? Some weirdos is making meatballs out of hookers. Because again, that's how much they care.
Uh-huh.
So we get more of them walking up and down the street, talking to people. They stop this tap dancer. They start talking to him. And it's almost like 10 minutes of them just walking up and down, asking people, hey, have you seen this ring? Finally ends up with them back at a bar. And they're talking about the rule of 3 now. Because he's already killed 3 people. Frank thinks he's going to stop. That he's not going to go kill anybody else and all that good stuff. And that Carnival and Mardi Gras is coming up. And he's not going to kill anybody at Mardi Gras. The hookers aren't even out on Mardi Gras, he says. I would like somebody from New Orleans to come in and please tell us. Are the hookers still out on Mardi Gras? Because every episode of Cops I watched had a hooker getting arrested at Mardi Gras. So they just keep talking. He eventually starts asking about Sherry. And Frank and finally admits that he misses her. And that basically that he fucked up. So we go to another bar where John walks in. And again, it's the same fucking bar. He walks in, and I swear to God, I can see two of the same extras behind John. Like two of the extras from the strip club. So he starts talking to the bartender, and he wants 3 women. He wants 3 women, and the bartender tells him that you're not going to get 3 women, essentially. He goes, hookers don't work on Mardi Gras. And he tells the bartender he's willing to pay a special price. The bartender's intrigued. And he tells the bartender he's going to pay them for $300 each for the women, $50 each for him, and $500 in advance. Which, I'm not the best at math. That's only, 360. I guess it is over 500. So we're good.
Yes.
The math checks out. And he says, all you have to do is have them here Tuesday night. We get now we get a scene. I think I wasn't paying attention to this scene or something because I don't remember this, where he's praying to Coatlicue. We then basically cut back to Frank, who's still drinking. And apparently, I guess his old partner or the old captain of Vice comes in. And he's like, I heard you were dating a hooker. He tells her it's over. That she went back to her old job, which I don't know how you know that. Tells him that he's never felt this way before. And the captain, or whoever this guy is, offers to help him find her if he promises to lighten the fuck up.
Yes.
No more pimp slapping hookers. Maybe don't call your girlfriend. Maybe don't call your girlfriend $100 whore.
Yeah, that would be good.
So we keep going now. He agrees. And we cut out base
14 and 37 seconds.
Okay.
That's when we finally get to find out it's a Mardi Gras movie.
Yeah, it's our first scene of Mardi Gras, where we have the parades going by. Again, it's another montage. But then we also see John, our killer, walking around Mardi Gras with his staff, with his dagger and the mask. And it's just basically him walking around, the cops walking around and that. They actually end up bumping into each other a couple of times. And I noticed behind John, there's this same guy in a tan suit with a beard following pretty close by to him. Almost as if this way they know who's who.
Yes.
Like, he's obviously part of the production team, and he's there either to watch John and make sure he doesn't get lost, or to make sure that the shoulder checks come in. Because they check each other. They basically bump shoulders, which is weird because John has plenty of room to not bump into the cops. But we're going to ignore that. So they're walking around. We go back to the bar. And there is Sherry with 2 other girls. Sherry is one of the 3 girls going with John. Now, you would think Sherry, being one of the first people to see John and to meet John, would fucking recognize John.
Yes.
And go, oh, that's the guy who Shirley went home with and probably murdered her.
Yes, that would have been something we would do.
Does she do this?
No.
No. She's perfectly fine going with him to his apartment. So now, part of the lie he told was that he had friends coming in from out of town and he wanted, 3 girls. So they get to the apartment and Sherry is, the first one to go, hey, where's the other guys? You said there was going to be 3, 2 other men here. And he says they must have been delayed by traffic, which, believable, it's Mardi Gras.
Yes.
So she takes off her robe, and she's just in a nightgown. The other two just sit down. One girl doesn't even face the camera. They want drinks, so he goes and fetches drinks. And he brings them this Peruvian drink called Parasol. Each girl, basically, it's to be drank like a shot. In one sip. Go ahead.
It's a type of bourbon. Or whiskey.
Yeah, I did not know this. So they all take their drinks. Well, they do. He doesn't. And then, remember how I keep saying how bad the editing in this movie is? Like, it's like, all right, cut. Lay on the ground. Unconscious. Action. Like, it's literally just a cut scene straight to them laying on the ground, all three unconscious. John walks back in, checks on them, and literally just starts carrying. This movie is dragging at this point because he picks Sherry up first, brings her to the room, comes back, gets one of the other girls. Meanwhile, we cut to the cops who are walking again, still walking. They're walking to this Chinese garden, this Chinese restaurant, and they talk to the owner who has never seen the ring before in his life. They ask him, he has a delivery boy. Delivery boy comes up and they show him a picture of the ring, which how did they get it? How did they even get a picture of the ring? Like, how did you get a picture of the ring and nobody's ever seen the fucking ring?
That is true. I've been wondering, how did they get the picture?
Reasons. That's why. Reasons. So the Chinese guy looks at the ring and goes, oh yeah, I saw that the other day, last Tuesday. And he specifically remembers the address and the apartment number. And the cop, he looks at him and goes, how do you know that? He's like, oh, the guy tipped me 10. Like, really? That's what it takes?
Good tip.
So, as responsible cops, Frank looks at Avery, or what was his name? Mayer. At Detective Mayer and goes, hey, let's go get a drink while we wait for backup. These motherfuckers went to a bar. Like, you know, there's a ritualistic murderer going around, and there's a good chance that this guy's going to murder somebody tonight, but it's not stopping me. Let's go have a drink at the bar while we wait for backup to show up. Because apparently that's going to take an hour. Like, how ridiculous. So they're in the bar. Sam comes in for no reason whatsoever and tells him that the killer has Sherry. They go running, and now we're not going to wait for backup. We're just going to go ahead and go in and get the guy. They go upstairs, or we cut upstairs. Hold on, let me get to that. No, they cut to them running upstairs, banging on the door. Police open up, all that good stuff. The bigger guy goes to break the door. He kicks it a couple of times, rams his shoulder in. The door ain't budging. Somebody get those goddamn firemen up here. When the hell did the fire department get there?
They just showed up.
Yeah, because they're showing up, and then there's a cop out there going, yeah, here, right here. And they come up with a whole fire truck. You couldn't get a cop car. How did you get a fire truck?
That is a good question.
Like, what did they do? Find a couple of $100 later in the movie? That someone hasn't pocketed? And the fire, the police is like, hey, upstairs, we got to get into this apartment. And these guys are just moseying their way into the apartment, into the building. We cut inside the apartment, and he now brings the third girl in. Sherry is there topless. The other girl is there topless. He just drops the other chick right on the table. The fire department finally get upstairs, and they're like, what's the problem? We need in this apartment. Oh, yeah, no problem. No, hold on. They literally take 3 whacks at it with the axe to break the door. They go, that'll do it. Let's go home now. So the fire department is left now. They showed up like, all right, we chopped the door down. Our job's done. What about the potential victims inside? Nope, we're here to chop the door down. Bye. So they go in, pointing their guns. They realize the front room's empty. John hears them and hides behind the curtain with his mask and his knife. Sherry starts screaming because the girls are now all of a sudden waking up, by the way. She's screaming. They go in and literally Detective Meyer asks where he is, and the chick tells him he's behind the curtain. Frank comes in, runs in, saves, unties Sherry. They hug. John somehow gets away. Like, I'm talking about he somehow slipped by the police from behind the curtain out onto the fire escape and is climbing down. Avery starts chasing after him, but John's pretty much gone by the time Avery gets down there. So we get a little chase scene, and it's funny because John is just, again, moseying. He's just walking. He's not running at all. Avery's booking it, trying to catch up to him. And John is, like, gone.
And oddly enough, I can say I've walked past that place he walked in.
Well, then the other cop goes chasing after him, and John, again, is just walking down the street, goes into this alleyway, and apparently he's now disappeared. They call it in. A random police car finally shows up. It's our first police car of the movie, by the way. But is it a police car? Hold on. I'm starting to think back. I don't think it was a police car.
It looked like a plain car.
So we still don't have a police car. Yeah. But in the back of the fucking car is the chief.
Because all they did was take a plain car and put a light on the dashboard.
He said, I lost him. He's like, I lost him. Well, call headquarters. Tell them to cordon off the French district, blah, 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 French quarters, blah, 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 all that good stuff. Next, we see this station wagon pull out and go left. No cop sees this, but somehow they got a description of the vehicle. Like, nobody saw him pull out of this alley. So now we kind of get a car chase. They corner him. He's down by the warp. They corner him. He basically crashes the car or spins the car. They corner him. They go running around to get him, trying to surround him. Meanwhile, this cat and mouse motherfucker climbs the bulldozer and escapes again. He gets into a cop car, which there are 2 cop cars now. We can only afford the cop cars for the chase. Like, he literally just climbs over the bulldozer, jumps into the cop car, and for some reason drives it straight off the dock into the water.
Yeah, I watched this scene twice, and I'm like, what?
So they're fishing the car out of the water, and they're pushing the car out of the water. The divers are down there, and they say there's no body in the car. They get the car up. The chief reaches in, grabs the Aztec mask. We get a close-up. Fade to black. That is Mardi Gras Massacre. I don't know what to say.
I've been trying to find something to say last night and today, and I can't figure out what to say.
So it just, we'll get to the review here in a second. We'll do a little bit of trivia. Like I said, I do not see a budget for this movie anywhere. The movie was filmed in 1978, was released in 1983. And even then, it received an X rating, so you can only go see it if you were over the age of 18. The film was listed as one of DPP's 72 video nasties in the UK, and even made the final list of 39 official titles for prosecution. But it was finally released in January of 2023 by 88 Films, 45 years after its original release. So the Mardi Gras scenes were shot on Mardi Gras. William Mezzo didn't have to audition for the role of John. The sequences in the killer's sacrificial altar room were all filmed in a warehouse. I think the whole fucking movie was filmed in a warehouse. Playboy playmate Laura Mish Owens lived in New Orleans at the time and appeared in a few films and shows shot there. She was nude in most of them. So Laura Mish Owens, she played Shirley, our first kill. So that's really all the information we have on this. I mean, there's some goofs, but I think most of the fucking movie was a goof. And then the soundtrack is High on Love, written and performed by Dennis Coffey. So, Jen, here's the hard question. What are your thoughts on Mardi Gras Massacre?
It was a movie that had a general plot that tried to stick to a plot, which gave it merit, because some of the movies recently have not had any. If you guys are watching the other show. So I would definitely, I'd probably give it a 3.
I mean, that's not hateful.
Because it where it ranks of, it's one of those. It's not my favorite movie, but I didn't hate it. So, yeah.
I can honestly say I didn't hate this movie. I would actually probably watch it again. Not right now, but I'd probably watch it again later on. It's by no means a good movie. The acting is pretty terrible. The sets are repetitive, as we've said. It's just, there's so much wrong. There's so much wrong with this movie. Mm-hmm. But the positives are still positive. The story was okay. The detective was kind of a douche canoe the whole movie. I think with better storytelling, this probably would have been a better movie. With better storytelling and probably a bigger budget, because I swear to God, their budget was like $200 or something, that they couldn't afford a police car except at the end chase when it got destroyed, instead of leaving, the first kill, the only police vehicle there is a meter maid scooter that these two very pretty big dudes have to fit in.
Yeah, and it's like, how? But then again, I've seen my daughter talk a police officer into just taking a Halloween picture with her. It probably isn't that hard.
But I give it 3.25, in all honesty, because like I said, the good is good. I mean, the women were attractive. They did their job. Like I said, the 19-year-old girl did the best job. She was like the best actor in the movie.
Yes.
But there's like I said, there's a lot wrong, but there's still some, like, I can still see myself watching this again. Because it wasn't like god awful like some of the other movies we've watched recently. Especially like Amityville Thanksgiving. I will never let it go. Amityville Thanksgiving is terrible.
I'm not asking you to let it go.
Yeah.
We're just going to make sure people know to just not even try.
And I'm still contemplating whether I should do the prequel this year for Thanksgiving, the Amityville Turkey Day. See if I want to do that to myself or not. But yeah, 3.25. I feel comfortable with that. Like I said, I'd watch it again. So that's gonna do it. Jen, where can we find you?
I'm at Friday with the Library in the Blue Box. I'm at my author page, Jennifer Elliott. I am the ghost that's playing with your hair while you sleep. You can also find me always at Fake Horror and Owlite.
And what do you got? You guys have a really good movie coming up on Monday on Tomb.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
One of my favorite.
Dude, I love this movie so much. I've watched it so many times since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And I definitely recommend checking it out. And, and tonight we have the Heaven's Lost Tales release party with Serena Mossgraves at the usual unprinted page time.
That would be 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
I do. Killer Clowns is one of the first horror movies I showed my youngest, and he absolutely loves that movie. I have all kind of collectibles. I have like the big popcorn and the cotton candy guns that they released a couple years ago that Spirit released.
Uh-huh.
Like, I have all kinds of collectibles from Killer Clowns. But you can find me everywhere at the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast, on X, on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. You can also find me on YouTube at the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. You can also, if you missed the show or you just want an audio only version of the show, you can find us anywhere. Spreaker uploads videos or uploads the content, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and many other places. Coming up this month on the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast, next week we are watching American Ninja. I've noticed all 3 movies next month I have seen before. I did not do that on purpose, but I have seen all 3 movies that we're watching next month. But we're watching American Ninja on the 4th, next Friday. On the 11th of March, we are watching, that is our St. Patty's Day episode. Actually, is it the 4th or the 7th? I think it's the 7th. The 7th is the next Friday. Next time we come to you, we will be watching American Ninja on March 7th. On the 14th, we will be celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and we will be watching Unlucky Charms. The 21st will be no show because I will be in Cincinnati at Horror Hound. And on the 28th, we celebrate Spring Break with Bikini Spring Break. Check back to any of the pages for our April movies. May movies will be coming up soon. I'm holding off a little bit because our first episode in May, Jen, will be halfway to Halloween.
Oh, I look forward to that.
It is May 2nd. We will be watching a Halloween-themed horror movie that weekend. Or that week. We will, and I think we'll have, I gotta think what we should do for Mother's Day. See if I can find a movie for Mother's Day that month. But that's everything coming up the rest of March. April, we have a bunch of movies. On the first week of April, that is our anniversary date coming up on the 4th of April. That will be our 1-year anniversary of the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. And we will be, of course, go ahead.
And if you cannot find a Mother's Day movie, you can always ask Jen what her favorite one is. And that could be a theme. This
could be. But on the 4th, we are watching Again, one of my top 5 movies of all time. Nothing But Trouble, written and directed by Dan Aykroyd himself. But we have a lot of stuff coming up on the podcast. Like I said, next month, it's just so weird that next month, 3 movies that I've already seen, and I did not do that on purpose. But guys, we will see you next week. Be good to each other. Stop coming on here with your political shit. Morgan, I'm looking at you. And remember, keep watching horror.
Keep reading horror too, please. We write a lot of it, as you saw in our beautiful commercial.
See you guys next week.